Hello student, in this video I am going to discuss about Java package, interface and static variable. I am Dr. Shashank Sahu from Akgec College. This topic is related to web technology subject KCS 602. So first of all I discuss about what is the package, then interface, then static variable. So what is the package? Package basically So what is the package? Package basically it is a group of similar classes. Suppose you want to make a folder in the system and you want to put all the classes within the same folder. So in the Java we call as a package. So putting the similar classes related to the classes a particular application we call a package. So package concept similar to the folder concept of the window. Each package respective folder must be created. So whenever we are going to create a package and its respective folder must be created. For example, suppose we are going to create the package name is institute. So first of all you have to write the package, then write the name of the institute. So here it is a package name and it is the instruction package. Let's see an example. Now in this example we have defined a package, name of the package is institute. Similar folder must be created in the system. So name folder name should be same institute and package name should be here is the institute. Now within the package we are going to define a class. Name of the class is student and we have the three variables in the class, roll number, name, and we have defined two functions, set data and get data. So it is a simple program that consists of package, name of the package is institute. Within the institute we have a class name student and two variables are defined, roll number, name, and two methods are defined, set data and get data. Now to create the object of this class we need to create a class separately. Name of the class is demo package and we have a main method. Now within this main method you have to create the object of a student. So we have created, this is object 1 of type student. Then we are using the set data. Set data we are passing the two value, that is the roll number and name. Then we have the get data to display the value. So you can understand we need to create the object of a class to call the methods set data and get data. Next topic is interface. What is the interface? Interface basically it is a collection of abstract functions or you can say function declarations. We are not defining any definition of the functions in the interface. Suppose you have a name of a function and you want to declare its definition later, then you can define that function in the interface. So function declaration has the name of the function and the type of the arguments that will be passed to the functions. For example, in the coming example I am going to discuss about an interface example. In the interface we are going to create a print function with the print interface. So look for this one. So there are two steps for creating an interface, step 1 and step 2. In step 1 first of all you have to define the interface with the declaration of the function. This is called the abstract class. Second, step 2 we have to implement the interface, that is called the implementation of the interface. So there are two, step 1 and step 2. Now step 1 first we define the interface with the declaration of the functions. So look for an example. It is an interface and name of the interface is print and name of the function is print data. Here you can see that it is an abstract function, no definition is given. So in the interface we have defined one abstract function that is called the print data and one argument is print mode. Now step 2, when we define the interface, we need to implement the interface. So an interface is implemented by a class. We have a separate class in which we will implement the interface. Let's see an example. The name of the class is computer, and we are implementing the interface with the implements keyword. So this implements keyword is important to implement an interface. So name of the interface is print. You can see here, name of the interface is print. Name of the class is computer. Now in the interface, see again, we have defined a print data is an abstract function. No definition is given here. Now to define a definition of this abstract function, we need to use a class. Now this abstract function consists of a statement system.out.println. It is an instruction, that is we are giving the definition of an abstract function. So there are two steps that I discussed. First step to define the interface, second step is to implement the interface. Now let's look for one more example. In this example we have defined two interface disk and interface print, and within this interface disk we have defined a method disk data, we have defined a method print data. So there are two interfaces are defined. Now next job is to implement this interface. To implement this interface, we have to use the computer is the class name, then implements, and name of the interface is print and disk. Now we have to give the definition of this method. Now we have the print data method. Now we have given the definition system.out.println. Then we have a disk data method. We have given the definition system.out.println hello learn. Then we have defined a main method. Now within the main method we have created an object of C1 of type computer. Then we have created C1.printData and C1.dispData. So in this example you can see that we have a two interface, one is disk and print. Then there is a class is defined computer. With the help of computer class we have implemented these two interface print and disk, and we are defining the definition of print data and disk data, and the main method we are calling the object with the, we are calling these two methods with the help of object C1. Now one major changes is basically we cannot give the definition in the interface, but from Java 8 onwards it is possible to give the body of the function in the interface, and that function must be defined as a default. This is very important part. Now look for an example. So we have an interface disk, and then we have defined a method disk data, and we are providing the instruction here in this method. Now in this method we have defining the instruction, and it is a providing a default method. So it is a default, because in Java 8 it is possible to define the definition of a function and becomes a default when we are giving the body of a function. Then we have an interface print is defined. Now we have the print data. Here we are not defining the definitions. So important is Java 8 onwards, whenever we are going to define the definition of a function, it is important to have the we call as a default function. Next is need to implement the interface in a class. So again we define a computer class, and we have implement the interface print and disk, and we have given the definition of print data. We have already given the definition of disk data, so no need to provide the definition of disk data in this class. I already told we can define the definition of a function from the Java 8 onwards. So we have already given the definition in this disp data, so no need to provide the definition of disp data here. Here disp data is already not defined. So we have a main method, then we create the object of C1 of type computer, and we are calling these two methods. The first method is print data and second method is disp data. Next I am going to discuss the topic of Java static variable. This is the static variable. So static variable is used to retain its value from a function call. This is important. Normally when we have a variable and we call the functions, then again we enter to the function, the variable become its initial value become 0. Now in case of static variable, it will maintain the value. So static variable is initialized at once. Scope of static variable is that it is at the program level. If the no initial value is given to static variable, then its default value is 0. Static variable is defined using the keyword static. Now a very important part, static variable retain its value within the function. Now look for an example. We have defined a class count object and one static variable is defined I, static int I, and within the constructor of this count object we have initialized the value I++. Then we have a show method. Within the show method we are displaying the number of objects are with the help of I. Now in the main method we are created three objects, object 1, object 2, object 3. When we call the object 1, it will call this constructor and its initial value is 0, it is incremented by 1. When we call object 2, again it will call the constructor and its initial value is, its earlier value is 1, it is incremented, it becomes 2. When we call object 3, again it will call the constructor and its value is incremented I++. So we can see that object 1, object 2, object 3, within this call the value of static variable is incrementing, that is object 1, object 2, object 3. Next is static method. I discuss about static variable, static method. So static method is defined using the keyword static. This is the example of static method. Before the static method we use the static here. Static keyword, static definition is defined here. Now advantage of static method is that it can be called without any object variable. So purpose of static method is to share common functionality among all the instances of the classes. Let us see an example. It is a static method. We have a class static example. Then int I equal to 0 static variable is defined here. Then one method within this class is display and main method is defined. So you can see there, this is a static, it is a static, it is a static method. Generally whenever we are calling a method, we need to create the object. But here when we have this method as a static, no need to create the object. We can call this method without any object. So it is a main method. Now in the main method we are calling this function without any object. So again I am repeating here, we have a class static example in this static example we have defined a method static, and static method can be called without any object. So in the main method we are calling this display function without any object. This is the beauty of static method, because it consists of common things, common values, so no need to create any object. One more example of static method. In this case there are two classes, class 1 and this one is class 2. So it is a class 2. In the class 1 we have created a static variable a, and there is a static method display. Then we have a more class 2 demo static. Then we have a main method. Now this is very important. Here we are calling a static method display with the help of name of the class. Why it is important? Because we are calling this static method outside this class. If this class you are calling this method within this class, no need to create the object, but we are calling this method outside the class, then you have to qualify with the class name. The class name is mentioned here, the class name is static example is mentioned here. So you have to give the class name here, then give the name of the function. Name of the function is display. So one class is defined, second class is defined. So whenever we are calling a static method outside a class, then you must qualify the method with the help of class name. Next topic is static block. We have a static variable, we have a static method, we have a static block. So what is the static block? Static block is used to initialize the static variable, and it is executed only once when the class is loaded. Let us see an example. We have a static variable k, then a static variable n, then a method display, then we have a static block. It is a static block. We are initializing n here. N is not defined here. We are not given any value to variable n. We have given the value to variable k equal to 6, but n is nothing. So we are defining the n here, n equal to k into 2. So therefore we are using the static block here. So n equal to k into 2, initialize the static variable. So in the main method we are calling the display function. So static variable is defined k equal to 6. Then we have a static block to initialize the second static variable with the formula n equal to k into 2, and we call with the help of display function and displaying the value of k as well as n. Next I am going to discuss about this keyword. Now this keyword, if you want to refer an object which is of the same method, then we are calling this keyword. Let us understand with the help of an example. We have a class student and three variables are defined: name, roll number and address, and then one method is defined set data, then we have a method of get data. Here we can see name of the class variable is name, roll number and address. Variable that we are passing to this method is name, roll number and address. Now to distinguish whether the name is the argument of a function or the name is the class variable name, to distinguish this, the name is a class variable we have to use this keyword here, that is this dot name equal to name, then this dot roll number equal to roll number, this dot address equal to address. So this is a very important part. Whenever the name of argument and name of class variable is same, to differentiate the name of a class variable, we have to use this keyword. Next, get data, to display the value of name, roll number and address. Then we have a demo student class, we have a main method, then we call as a S1 is the object of a student, then we create a set data and passing the value Amit, then there is a value, and then we are using set dot get data. So this is the example. When you run this example, it will display Amit, it will display the roll number and it will display the address here. Next I am going to discuss about the final method in the Java. You cannot override in the final method. Final method cannot be modified. So in a class, if you define the final here, then this display function become a final and you cannot modify this function. Now suppose we have defined a class test1 and extend the exam final. Exam final is a class, it is an inheritance, and we try to modify the display function. Display function is a final. If we try to modify this display function, it will give the error message. So any method, if you defined as a final, you cannot modify it. If you try to modify it, it will create the problem. So in the main method, we have created the object T1 and we use T1.display, try to call this function, but at this point compiler give the error. Look for this one, test.java error, display in test1 cannot be overridden, display in the example file. Why? Because we have defined the display as a final, you cannot modify it. If you try to modify it, it will give the error message. So any function which is defined as a final, you cannot modify it. So let's have a summary of this lecture. So in this lecture I discuss about, I am just recap it. Okay. So in this lecture I discuss about package, how to define the package. Okay. How to define a package? To define a package, same name folder should be created in the system and we are giving the same name in the package. Package is basically to club the common things in a one folder. Then I discuss about interface. So interface is used to define the abstract methods. Its definition is not given. Its definition is given in the class. Now with the help of this class, we implement a particular interface. So we have a class and implement the interface. We are giving the definition of this abstract method within the class. Then I discuss about from Java 8 onwards, we can define the definition of a function, but the function should be defined as a default. Then I discuss about static variable. I call the static variable retain its value. Whenever we calling the function again and again, in this case we are incrementing the static variable with the help of a constructor. The constructor name is count object. So we have a object 1, object 2, object 3. So whenever we are calling object 1, object 2, object 3, it will call the constructor itself again and again, and it will increment the value I. Then I talk about the static method. So in the static method, no need to use the object. Static method can be called by itself. So we have a static void display. So display function is calling the display function without any object. That is the beauty of the static method. Then we have talk about static block. Static block basically used to initialize the static variable. So we have not given the value of n, then we are using the static block here, and we initialize the value of n equal to k into 2. This is called the static block. Next I discuss about the this keyword. Now in the this keyword, whenever the name of the argument and name of the class variable is same, so it's difficult to distinguish between the argument name and the class variable name. Now to distinguish which is the class variable, we have to use the this keyword, that is this dot name. With the help of this keyword, we are able to identify the name of class variable. Whenever the argument name, function name same as the class name, then we need to use this keyword to identify this name, roll number are the class variable, this name, roll number are the argument variables. Next I talk about the final method. So I discuss the final method cannot be modified. So we have a class exam final, then we have a class test1, and we extend the class exam final. Now we try to modify this display function, but you cannot modify it. Why? Because it is defined as a final. It is difficult to modify it. It will give the compiler error. So when you run this program, it will give this type of error. Display in test1, it is a test1. We are inheriting the display function in the test1 with the help of inheritance and try to modify it. So therefore it is display in the test1 cannot be override display in the exam final. So it is giving the error message to you. So I hope you all understand these terms that I discussed. These are the fundamental terms of the Java language. Thank you very much.